Hello, I bought the new M2 iPad Pro 12.9 inch, the 6th generation. So as you can see, I've already covered it a bit into a screen, into a bumper. More to that later. So I want to talk about what was my reasoning for getting this device, this quite expensive device, I think, especially considering it has been 12 years for me since I've last owned any iOS device. So, what was my reasoning to delve into the Apple ecosystem again? Also, how well does this device interact with other devices, Android, smart TVs, drives, hubs, etc.? Also, some tools, accessories specifically designed for tablets, and Bluetooth devices. So, and finally, I'm going to give you some review how so far I feel this stacks up and how happy I am with my purchase and what my future plans, my intentions are for this little thing, or it's actually not so little. So let's get into it. So my last iOS device is actually this, as you can see, sadly broken iPhone 4. So that actually broke just a year ago, which was not my last actively used phone, by the way. Um, but this had been my last purchased iOS device, which is around about 12 years ago, and I've then switched over to Android. Currently using a Samsung Galaxy. So what made me change or switch over to Android in the beginning? So I gotta roll that up to make you understand. Um, when I had my iPhone, it was like marvelous. Like it was pretty much my first real smartphone. There were smartphone alternatives on the market, but I think Android wasn't up to it yet. Really, I think Apple's iOS just felt way more sleek, responsive, and swift, and everything felt more polished, nicer, just prettier, better. And there were just some things that, some functionalities that even my old Sony Ericsson from 15 years ago could kind of do. So um, I quickly got into jailbreaking my device. So I actually did the jailbreak multiple times to did the jailbreak, then did an software update and redid the jailbreak. So I did it multiple times. And usually I did it to get some functionality, some additional functionality. Like back then, it was not standard, at least for iOS, to have a mobile hotspot included to make it possible to share your internet with other devices, which, especially back then, having gone to university, was really important. I was carrying my PC, my laptop around with me, and I didn't want to get like a second mobile, pay for second internet. So I just wanted to use the internet that I got through my carrier, my mobile phone carrier, and share it with my PC. And Apple didn't allow that back then. Also, some gimmicky things like altering the UI, the user interface, mm, making it possible to um, put the app icons anywhere on the screen you like. I didn't like that Apple would just bump them to the top all, and I just felt there was so much lacking. As beautiful as iOS is, I still felt it was lacking in functionality and customizability. So also the price. Android is just a whole bigger world, and it just offers so many alternatives. So I got quickly into Android, and back then I got myself an Sony Xperia Z, which at that point had, I think, the superior camera. It was a waterproof phone. It had a super pretty screen. I still own the phone somewhere. I could search it up. Not with a broken screen, by the way. It's still totally 100% functional. And the most important thing, it being an Android phone, it supported SD cards, which was a huge thing. So I could bump up my storage capacity hugely, and SD cards are just so nice, especially with your phone. Like for me back then, I could just use my SD card, plug it into my PC, put all my music onto the SD card, my own MP3 music, files, pictures, and just read it off of my SD card when it's plugged into my phone. So super convenient, super easy, and that SD card I upgraded to a better SD card, I think 2 or 3 times over the past 12 years. But basically the SD card traveled, accompanied me, and even when I got a new phone, I would just take out the old SD card, plug it into a new phone, and voila, all my files are back there, all my pictures, all my music. And I also felt it interacted way better with my PC. With an Android device, it's kind of like a black box. You can plug it in, and with a new normal Windows PC, it's Windows operating system, it would open a window for your camera. So it's basically like a sandbox. It allows you to interact from your PC to your phone, to your iPhone, to your iOS device, but only inside the camera app. You can copy and to your PC the pictures you've taken with the phone, but you can't really interact and copy any files or other things onto the phone. That's just not possible. The software is really locked up. And with an Android device, regardless whether there's an SD card inside or not, it's just way easier to interact with a PC. And I didn't own an iOS. I didn't own a Mac OS, a Mac PC. So for me, I felt that my Android phone interacted much better with my back then my Windows driven PC. A couple of years ago, I've switched from primarily using Windows as an operating system on my PCs to Linux. I've went through Ubuntu and some others, but mostly stuck with Ubuntu. And I felt even with Linux, Android phones interact much better. So I'd still, up to today, even now, shooting this video, sitting here on this chair, I'd swear on my Android device as my main driver, as my main thing carrying me through the day. It does all the thing. I can use all the social media. I can take pictures. I can use the internet. Like, it does everything perfectly fine. It's a great phone, and it interacts with with other things in general much better than iOS devices. So I've pretty much I've been done with iOS pretty much. Um, but this is not what you came here for, right? So you came not here to hear me slander about Apple and its phones, about iOS, its operating system, and its limitations. And yes, I did buy an iOS device, like here it is, and it's not a cheap one. It's actually the most expensive device in Apple's lineup. It's the most expensive they offer. The only way to go up in price is by choosing a higher storage capacity to go up to bump up the storage. Aside from that, that's the most expensive. That's the most money you can throw at Apple for any iOS device that they currently offer. iOS device. So what made me change? Second story. Um, about 2 years ago, my old PC, also a Sony PC, started kind of dying, and it served me good purpose for a long time, but um, the battery started dying, and even with the power cords, oh, it's over here, plugged in, um, pushing the power button, the PC wouldn't turn on. And the solution was actually to take out the battery. It sounds crazy, but the thing is, the battery was so dead that it would suck up energy and try to recharge itself first before making the PC boot, making the PC start up. So the solution, take out the battery altogether and use this laptop as a kind of desktop PC. So, but that was not my reason to buy an iPad. Like the iPad is not a replacement for my PC. No. So I was thinking about getting a new PC, and especially for my basically my work, my real work, my job that I have to pay my bills. Um, I also work online occasionally, and I wanted to have a PC that's just stable and running and doing its stuff. And I was going to look on Amazon and online, and first was into mini PCs. First was eyeing with like something like Raspberry Pi or stuff that was maybe like too small, too meager. So I saw let's go a bump up, and usually the things that I found in the 400 500 bucks range, in the $500 range, um, those were devices with up around about 8 GB of RAM, which is just what my phone has. Like most smartphones have um, just that or more. Most phones from big phone brand companies like Samsung, LG, Huawei, whatnot, they all offer that their top lineup. Usually they have by now like 12 GB or some even 16 GB of RAM. So what should I do with a PC that is even lacking behind my phone, on paper at least? Of course, we always have to say phones make different use of RAM due to their limited operating system, even Android compared to a dedicated PC. But still, I didn't want to settle with something worse than my phone. And the moment I looked for something a little bit, a tiny bit, an eeny weeny little bit more expensive, um, I was already in the Apple device category, and I don't know what made me stumble upon Apple's lineup, but um, maybe it was just looking for mini PCs. The the Mac Mini popped up in my search recommendations, and I started comparing it for its price with um, other non-Apple products in a similar price category, and it with its new M1 chip back then, I bought the Apple Mac Mini M1 about 1.5 years ago. So I didn't make a video about it, didn't make much of a fuss about it. Um, and when I looked at it prior to buying, it just beat all the competition, anything that was available in a similar price range. So I thought, okay, it's not an iOS device. It runs Mac OS. It's still a PC with a desktop operating system. It doesn't run the flimsy, cut down, crippled iOS. That's what I thought, and I said, yeah, I'm gonna as primarily as a workstation. I promised myself I'm not gonna try to get into PC gaming. I'm just gonna wanna be productive. I wanna use it as a workstation. Maybe I was using it for videos, editing, art and stuff, but primarily as a workstation for my job and to manage files, to manage things on my drives. So yeah, I got the Mac Mini, and I love it. I love my Mac. I was like, oh my god, where have I been? If there's interest in what I think of the Mac OS, of the Mac operating system compared to different OSs, operating systems like primarily Windows, but also Linux, um, give me a comment. I gladly follow up on what my ideas are and what I think, how these systems compare. Um, and I can say that as someone who's not really an Apple fanboy. Um, but yeah, I loved my Mac, and I started getting more into creative things, trying to do this channel, trying to get out some videos, and also I tried to rekindle my love for art and get more to drawing, and um, using using a smartphone to draw, even with a smart pen. This is not a smart pen, by the way, but you just have limited space. Like you can only move the pen so far across the screen. So um, trying to get like those long straight or like slightly curving strokes, it's hard on a phone. You can pinch in and try to get your phone horizontally to get the long strokes, but it's hard. It's not a joy. And this phone, while it serves me well, is also um, 2 3 years old by now. So um, I actually saw lots of videos. Probably YouTube recommended me by looking up tutorials and infos and guides for Mac OS. I also got kind of reintroduced to how iOS works in conjunction with macOS. So the ability to use your device as a second screen without having to buy a second screen, but also having the powerful M1 chip. Back at the time I was looking at the Gen 5 iPad Pro. Now this is an M2 iPad Pro, but having the powerful M chip also was something that was really attractive to me. I had like good experience with my Mac Mini M1, the M chip series being a very powerful, efficient chipset, and Also, the idea is that Apple might in the future open up the OS, the iOS, the iPad iOS for the iPad Pros to make them behave a little bit more like a PC, like a desktop OS, like Mac OS. Because currently, what's holding this back, and I think that's the gist that most other people on YouTube forums, etc., will give you. The thing that's holding back this device right now is not its power, it's not its hardware, it's the software. It's not held back by what the device could theoretically do, it's held back by what the software lets it do. But I'm not going to talk much about what I wish from this device to be capable of. This is not the focus on the video, so further, my reasoning for getting this device in the first place, I already said to supplement my Mac for drawing, but also for video editing on the go. So while Android does not interact well with even Mac OS and not at all with iOS, it is still possible to get an SD card, to take out the SD card and plug it into an SD card reader which is plugged into the iPad, and make the iPad through its, even with iOS, read the SD card, and this way transfer files, video files, picture files from the phone to the iPad. And I'm going to connect to that thought of using the iPad kind of as a mobile PC later on. So, but yeah, that's my reasoning. I was thinking of using it as a supplement to my PC, as a way to draw. Also with the M chip now, with the M2 chip being future proof for demands for the next 4, 5, 6 years. And lastly, to have a tool for video editing on the go. Should I be traveling maybe 3, 4, 5 days or even weeks on the go, not have my PC, my setup here available, and still be able to put out some videos if I want to, if I feel like it. And lastly, it's just an effing dope screen. I mean, it's a really, really good screen. It's a big screen, that's a good screen, and it's pretty to look at. But sadly, I've not been using it that extensively. Usually when I come back from work, I'm just too tired and groggy, and I just stick to holding my phone, even watching YouTube. It would be much prettier watching it on my big screen, but sometimes it's just easier to hold the phone, and I don't know, it's like the big screen, maybe it's unwieldy. Maybe it's the price that I'm kind of too scared to hold it, to use it, to be rough with it. I don't know. But here I'm gonna transition into the second part of this video. My current use of this device. So this is gonna be the biggest bummer, and it's actually a bummer for myself. It's I don't regret having bought it, but I feel I'm not using it as much as I should use it, especially considering the price, how much money I put on the counter. I'm not so sure. I don't live in the US. Me living in Japan, by the way, I had to pay it in yen, and the yen currently being not so strong made this additionally expensive, which was not primarily a point for getting this device, but getting this device now, as it might look like the yen will not take a turn for the better. But current economic situation of Japan, and also the crisis, the conflict in the Ukraine, not topics I'm gonna delve in this video, but things like these do have an impact on prices, and they might bump up prices by a few $100 in Japan, a few 10,000s of yen, 10,000 yen, 100 US dollar. So expecting prices for devices to go up, this might not have been a reason to get the device, but it was a reason to get the device now. Because I don't see this device getting any cheaper in the next 1 year. Maybe there might be a new iPad Pro getting released in 1.5 years, depending on Apple's release cycle. But even then, that device will be even more expensive with the current trend of the currency. So, yeah. How does this device connect with other things? So, it connects very well with disk drives, hard disk drives. It does need a power source for some drives, so it might not, its own power output might not be enough to power the drive while it's connected just to the tablet. USB sticks, this is just a traditional type A USB. I don't know, it was the blue connector. It works fine. So USB sticks work great. Hubs, HDDs, hard disk drives, SSDs work fine. There's no issue in interacting with these devices. Perfect. So to bump up storage, because I didn't pick the highest storage. I picked the lowest storage. I'm carrying a drive with me. It's not the smallest, but it's not the biggest. I think it's an okay drive. But if you're interested in external drives, I'm not the biggest expert on that. I can give you my take. I can give you my 2 cents in another video. Again, comment. Other devices, Bluetooth devices, work great. Especially my old, it's quite an old wireless keyboard, Apple. And you might think, well, didn't you say you're not an Apple fanboy? You're not much invested into the Apple ecosystem? My last iOS device had been 12 years ago. Well, yeah, but the Apple Bluetooth keyboard works surprisingly well even with an Android device, so that still works fine. And it's just a pretty keyboard, so I think it's well done, well made. So yeah, drives, SD sticks, and HDDs, SSDs work fine. Bluetooth devices, including keyboard, mice, headphones, tested it all, works great. Connectivity, quick, but I think if you're invested into Apple devices, if you're familiar with iOS devices, I don't need to explain much on that. Um, Hubs also usually no issue. But lastly, how does the iPad Pro, which runs iOS, connect to my phone, which runs Android? So how do those two come together? And the answer is not at all. They they do not like each other. They don't like each other. It's like, and this it's not this buddy's fault. It's like he's trying to be nice. It's this sucker's fault. It's like Apple doesn't like their things, their toys to interact with the other kids. It's like, no, I don't want the other kids to play with my toys. Like Apple is really like consistent in cutting off any interaction with competition. They really want to trap you in their ecosystem. Their ecosystem interacts with itself brilliantly, but it does not interact well with other things, with other operating systems, PC desktop operating systems, but also, of course, with Android. So, what to do? How do I get data from A to B or B to A from my Android device to my iOS device or from my iOS device to my Android device? iCloud is not a solution because that works well between my iOS device and my Mac, but it doesn't work for my Android device. So the answer, I use Microsoft Dropbox. I'm a huge fan of Dropbox. I could always use it with my Microsoft Outlook email. I've been using multiple emails. It's my preferred email. I really like the UI. It's very safe, it's very reliable. I never had any leaks. Also, it connects well with other Microsoft services. So I would always suggest the two emails, the two to-go emails that everyone should have. Two email accounts that every person should open up is a Microsoft email, and B, a Google email, a Gmail. Microsoft Outlook email can be used for a lot of Microsoft services, including Skype and Dropbox and some other really neat apps like Office. I think they are still very, very useful programs, very useful applications, services. On the other hand, Google, of course, all the Google services, Google Play Store and YouTube. Back to Microsoft's Dropbox. It's a free service. It offers 2 GB of free storage to use. That's not huge, but it's enough to transfer files, usually most files, from one device to another device to work on a project, to work on a picture. Transfer the picture onto the Dropbox, the cloud, and then download again to the other device and vice versa. So that works really well. Another more efficient, maybe not faster, not easier way, but ultimately more efficient way is to use an SSD card reader through a dongle that you attach to the iOS device, in this case the iPad, and have the SD card dongling on the iOS device. Plug the SD card from the phone into the dongle, and it should read it just like any other external device, like a stick, like a USB stick, or like a drive, like a hard disk drive or SSD. So especially for larger files, video projects, and using videos that have been shot with the phone as a camera, that's, I think, the way to go, to use this tablet as a semi replacement for a PC. And how does the iPad connect to the Mac? I'm not going to lose many words on that. You have lots of tutorials, videos on that. I think they work marvelously together. I was surprised how well the iPad works as a second screen simply by being connected to the same Wi-Fi, um, which is super duper amazing. I had some breakups, some hiccups here and there, which I could totally 100% negate by making the connection not through Wi-Fi but through a higher quality USB cable, plugging a USB-C cable one side into the Mac, the other side into the iPad. It would have a much smoother, stable connection, and I could use my iPad as a second screen for hours reliably. The way they work together is it's just sweet. Now to end this video off, my unboxing of the iPad and the S series that I bought along with the iPad. So this being quite a pricey device, especially here in Japan, I think I already highlighted that. I really wanted to go short to have this device protected. I think it's nice that Apple is having some kind of conscious for packaging, for creating packages that are environmentally friendly. This being made, as far as I can tell, completely out of paper. The packaging is still very nice, very high quality. There is everything included necessary to charge the iPad. The charging cable, USB-C to USB-C, looks kind of flimsy, but it's high quality, I think. So the charger itself, the wall mount, is just a 30-watt charger, so it is not the greatest charger to get your phone charged. To get your device, your iPad charged quickly. So I'm thinking about getting another one. Here I'm unpacking the other stuff I ordered on Amazon. And the things that arrived first were an aluminum stand and a protective film, a protective sheet from Paper-like, which is quite popular, I guess, especially for people who want to use this device for drawing. I also got a cheap imitation of an Apple Pencil. You can see here in the picture to the left of the iPad. I'll elaborate a little bit more on that one later. So as you can see, I applied the film, the protective cover, as good as possible. Some fingerprints ended up under the sheet and I could not get rid of them. It was really hard to apply this one evenly. It was a pain in the butt. It got me sweaty hand and it freaked me out. This is like my OCD made me almost throw the device to the wall. The pen works extremely well. It sticks to the pad, to the magnet on the side. as far as I can tell, it behaves almost exactly like the original Apple Pencil. It gets activated by a double tap and deactivated by a double tap. It's charged via USB-C. It the screen recognizes when the pencil is hovering above the screen and knows the difference between a click and hover. Also, not in this video, but I can attest it works extremely well for drawing on drawing apps. It even recognizes in what angle the pencil is being held. So some virtual pencils um, will make a like a wide or thin line depending on whether the pencil is held straight to the surface or in an angle. Um, this cover arrived last, which is just the most rugged thing I found on Amazon that had good reviews and fulfilled the requirements I was having for a bumper for protective cover. This one is rugged but also gives a good grip. It has a built-in stand, looks of decent build quality, and has this industrial look. It has a position for the pen to be held. Very nice. um, the only thing, it made the tablet fatter, thicker, so it now no longer fits onto the stand. And yeah, that's it of my review for the iPad Pro so far. My unboxing and the things I wanted to get off my chest. I might follow up with another video on how I like the tablet so far. Um, so yeah, here's it one more time. Um, in the protective case and the bumper. So another thing I got myself is this bag from Oakley. I just like the military pattern. It's not made for tablets. It's actually made for laptops, I guess, or ultrabooks. But the iPad Pro being pretty beefy, pretty big, it just so happens to fit perfectly. Um, there's really just in terms of width, it fits perfectly, and in terms of length, it's almost a perfect fit. There's really just a bit of empty space on the side, so this was also a nice match for this tablet. So yeah, maybe I'm a little bit overprotective, like a helicopter parent dropping the child in front of the school gates. But I really wanted to see this piece be protected well. I had some time to really test it out at my work and on the go. I didn't play many games. I played just 2 games to test the auto tablet. So yes, it works very well for every other kind of task you'd want to throw at it, be it gaming or creative tasks, office tasks, writing, typing, and for me it was primarily for drawing, and I think it really feels nice drawing on this. This also due to the 120 hertz display. So from that standpoint, I do not regret having bought this device. Yeah, I think to sum up, I think there are pretty much 3 categories of um, of people who might benefit from this device. Category number one: people who do not own a PC at all, people who do not have a dedicated PC and do not own a tablet yet, people who might own a smartphone or not, regardless, who want to have something that is kind of akin to a PC, um, but do not want to get the monitor or the TV. Just want to have something more mobile that's still PC-like. I think then the iPad Pro might be something to think about, just skipping over smaller tablets along with a dedicated PC and using the iPad Pro as a two-in-one thing, as a tablet and PC, while I still think a real PC does a better job at being a PC with its dedicated OS. The second kind of person, the second group of people that might be interested in getting this device are people who are into art and creative tasks, but want to do these things on the go, either artists, people who are into digital art, or people who do lots of video editing and need to have something that lets them do that on the go. In both these scenarios, I think it is a great device, not a necessary device, probably still overpriced for the task. And last but not least, the third kind of person that might want to get this device, people who just have money to throw at the wall. Like it's pretty expensive, and I think there are other devices that are less niche, that are less dedicated, and are just overall better as a all-round experience. Like someone who doesn't own any tablet at all, specifically people who don't even own a smartphone, who want to get just a first smart device, aka people like my mom a few years ago, I'd suggest getting something smaller, probably just an iPad mini. Um, it is much more manageable, much more wieldy. You can hold it much nicer in your hands, and it's still, I think, a 7-inch or 8-inch tablet still provides an advantage in terms of screen size over most smartphones, but is still not too big to be unwieldy and to kind of fit easily into a small handbag or something that you can just throw into your bag without adding weight. And yeah, the iPad Pro really is a device that it makes me uncomfortable just throwing it into my bag the way it is. So I really felt it is kind of necessary to protect it a bit. So here it is again. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Turned out again super long. But if I could get you interested or could get you to think about getting a different device in each case, I hope my video was helpful for you. My video could provide something to you, an unbiased opinion, which is, I think, hard to find on YouTube because there's just so many YouTubers, big YouTube channels that are supported by tags, that are sponsored, even if they don't get sponsored for that specific video. There are still many YouTubers that have Apple in their channel name, or have a channel revolving around Apple products. So they make their money as YouTubers off of the Apple community being interested in Apple products, so they will be hard pressed to talk poorly about Apple products. And I think Apple's products, iOS products, are not the best choice for everyone. I think if you're a tech savage person, if you know how to handle tech, and you want to get the maximum out of devices, I think Android is just leagues ahead. If I had to choose one device, like one device that rules them all, of course, PC. I would go with a PC that has a dedicated PC operating system. Even Mac OS way above any iOS product. But if we're just looking into the realm of mobile devices, I'd say Android. Android is the way to go if you're tech savage, if you know how to handle tech, if you're not a 70-year-old grandma, 70-plus-year-old grandpa, and you've never touched a smartphone, or you're like a little child who doesn't know how to handle tech, I'd go for Android. It's just the possibilities, the options are just way bigger. For example, this is a Samsung phone. Samsung with its DeX has like a mode, the DeX mode, which gives you a desktop-esque experience when you connect the phone via USB-C to HDMI cable. Just plug in some USB cable, and bam, there you go. Even wirelessly. And this is just one example. I could go on and on and on. The ability for most Android phones to accept SD cards, I hope that's something that Samsung doesn't give up on the long term. I hope that's something that stays in the Apple phone segment, because I think it's just a super neat thing. Just putting in an SD card that has up to 500, up to a terabyte of storage in it, and you just plug it in and the data is just there. You don't need download, nothing upload, nothing synchronize. You don't need to do anything. The data is already there and you carry it around with you. And I said it in this video, my SD cards, I switched them out maybe 2 or 3 times. But overall, my SD cards accompanied me throughout my phones, and I carried them. When I switched out my phone, I didn't switch out my SD card. The SD card went along with the new phone. So I think this is so undervalued and recognized. And yeah, I love my new additions to my selection of tech products. I love this iPad Pro. I love my PC, my Mac. But I think Apple products are not the end of all, and in many regards, especially on a software, from a software perspective, they are severely behind. And use them for what they're good at, but don't shut the door to other products. Again, I would, for the price and the functionality, I probably stay away from Apple products, especially these expensive Apple products, if you do not 100% or at least 80% really think that specifically the iOS product is an advantage over a non-iOS product. Otherwise, I personally stay away from iOS. Not Mac OS, not MacBooks, but Apple iOS products. At least the way it is right now. I love it, but not for everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and have a nice day, you wonderful people. And again, it's been a long video. You've made it through if you hear me say this now, but goodbye, cheerio, auf Wiedersehen.